sum of angles in a quadrilateral. So the first thing we need to take note of is what is a quadrilateral. Okay, so if you don't know what a quadrilateral is, then you might not be able to understand the topic. So in geometry, a quadrilateral is a two-dimensional shape that has four sides. You can also say a quadrilateral is a polygon that has four sides. So if I have a shape like this, this shape is a quadrilateral. How do we know it's a quadrilateral? It has four sides: one, two, three, and four. It also has four angles: one, two, three, and four. So we all know that this shape is a rectangle. In other words, a rectangle is a type of quadrilateral. So any 2D shape or any two-dimensional shape that has four sides qualifies to be called a quadrilateral. Some examples of quadrilaterals are rectangle, square, trapezoid or trapezium, rhombus, parallelogram, and so on. So any two-dimensional shape that has four sides is called a quadrilateral. So here we are looking at sum of angles in a quadrilateral. Here we know that the quadrilateral has four angles. If we add up all the angles together, what are they going to give us, right? Now, when we go back to this rectangle, we know that this rectangle has four angles, and each of the angles of a rectangle is equal to 90 degrees. This means the angle here is 90 degrees, the angle here is 90 degrees, the angle here is 90 degrees, and the angle here is 90 degrees. So for a rectangle, each of the angles is equal to 90 degrees. So if we sum all of them together, we have 90 degrees plus 90 degrees plus 90 degrees plus 90 degrees. 90 degrees plus 90 degrees plus 90 degrees plus 90 degrees is going to give us 360 degrees. So from this understanding, we can simply say the sum of angles in a quadrilateral is equal to 360 degrees. So let's write that down. Okay, so this is the principle we are going to follow to solve any missing angle of a quadrilateral. Not every quadrilateral has all these angles exactly 90 degrees. So if I have a quadrilateral in this form, so this is a quadrilateral. How do we know it's a quadrilateral? It has four sides and four angles. But unlike this other quadrilateral, all the angles are not 90 degrees. But the basic principle here is if you add all the angles together, you're still going to get 360 degrees. The reason is, as one angle increases in value, the opposite angle reduces in value to compensate for the increase in the other angle. So as one angle over here is becoming more than 90 degrees, the angle over here is becoming less than 90 degrees. So they compensate for each other. At the end of the day, sum of angles in a quadrilateral is equal to 360 degrees. So now let's look at some examples. So in this situation, we're expected to find the value of x. So this principle comes in handy when you have a missing angle in a quadrilateral. So using the principle that states that sum of angles in a quadrilateral is equal to 360 degrees, you can easily find this missing angle. Okay, so we know that the sum of angles in a quadrilateral is equal to 360 degrees. This means that x plus 101 degrees plus 131 degrees plus 72 degrees is equal to 360 degrees. Okay, just by applying that principle. Now we need to add the known angles. We know these three angles, therefore we need to add them together. So when you add these three angles, what are you going to get? 304 degrees. So we have x plus 304 degrees is equal to 360 degrees. Okay. So in order to get the value of x, we need to move 304 degrees to the left, to the right, sorry. So we have x is equal to 360 degrees plus 304 degrees. Okay. So when you do this subtraction, what are you going to get for x? 56 degrees. So the value of the missing angle x is equal to 56 degrees. Oh, minus. Okay, so we have 360 degrees minus 304 degrees. So we have our answer as 56 degrees. Okay, so we have been able to use this principle to find this missing angle when we know the other three angles. Okay, so now let's look at another example. Okay, so here we are expected to find the value of y, but we have an issue here. We know this angle to be 74 degrees. We know this angle to be 94 degrees. But do we know this angle? This angle seems to be empty. If two angles are missing, we cannot find an answer. So we have two missing angles. But the question is this angle really missing? Or do we know what it is? Some students might be confused that, okay, we don't know two angles. We can't solve. No, you can solve. Once you see this sign, we all know that that is 90 degrees. Okay? So that means we know three angles. So this would mean using sum of angles in a quadrilateral, we have y plus 74 degrees plus 94 degrees plus 90 degrees is equal to 360 degrees. Okay, so when you add these three angles, what do you have? So y plus 258 degrees is equal to 360 degrees. So moving plus 258 to the right, it becomes minus 258. So y is equal to 360 degrees minus 258 degrees. So what will be the value of y? So the value of y is 102 degrees. So try out this question before we continue.